So for hires, what are they known for? Well, 3 things. 1 being the deck most people would think of when people talk about fairy decks being a big thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! 2 for people being annoyed about them changing problem-solving card text just for the for hire pen. So instead of saying, for example, it searches a for hire card, they'll say it searches a card for hire. And finally, they're also known for being, well, complete trash. Well, in Master Duels at least. Because in Duel Links they were broken for a bit, and then hit on the ban list until they were once again trash. All this to say that they're a somewhat controversial deck, and now they're getting new pieces of support. So the real question is, does any of this new support fix those 3 problems? Well, they're still fairies, but one of their new cards is a baby dinosaur? So I guess it helps balance it out with the Scalies? That obviously doesn't really matter, and the fact that they kept their own special problem-solving card text is sort of expected at this point. The real question that we all care about though is the third one. Does this fix the deck? Are they playable now? Well, let's rewind a bit. What made them bad in the first place was how generally easy to interrupt they were. Using infinite impermanence on their first summon usually just ends their turn, with all of your backup monsters staying stuck in your hand. That's why their new Link 2, Dona, Dagger Fur Hire, is actually super useful for this deck. Being a Link 2 made with any 2 different monster types, it can be made with basically any Fur Hire and any extender if your normal summon gets interrupted. We'll talk about those extenders soon. Then it has a first effect that only really helps when going second, where you destroy a Fur Hire you control and an opponent's monster. While not amazing, it does trigger Folgo's effect to draw a card, or 3 cards if you have enough fairies on board. But the effect that really helps out is the second one. By tributing a monster, preferably a Link, it can then summon a Fur Hire with a different name from your hand or graveyard, and if you did tribute a Link, you can get 2 out instead. Not only does this get around interruption by letting you start comboing again after something was negated, but it even allows you to link climb a bit with it, since a lot of Fur Hires can be turned into Almirage, and you can then tribute a Link 1 to get 2 monsters worth of materials out instead. Since the new summons aren't negated or anything, they can just start the Fur Hire chain all over again, so it really adds a bit of resilience to the deck. But another problem this deck faced is being just a bit too bricky. Draw too few Fur Hire monsters, or too many with the same name, and you'll exhaust all of your resources without really accomplishing anything. Luckily, we have an amazing new piece of consistency boosting in the form of Rex Cargo Fur Hire. This new card, instead of triggering when another Fur Hire is summoned after it, triggers on summon. It allows you to search a Fur Hire spell, which is basically a choice between their Quick Play Monster Reborn or Rookie Fur Hire. If you search the latter, you can then use it to tribute Rex and replace it by Beat, who then gets to search any Fur Hire card. It's a great consistency boost for the deck, and by being a dinosaur you can run 6 copies of it thanks to Fossil Dig searching it with no downsides. Not only that, but it also has a graveyard quick effect, where it'll either add back a Fur Hire card to your hand, or special summon it if it's a monster. So obviously that's an extender, getting more monsters out, but also it being a quick effect means that you can use it to trigger Donpa on your opponent's turn, if you already have it on the field, which again will trigger Folgo's Draw 3 effect. So you could just keep playing the deck by keeping your resources high, using Folgo, Rafale and the other cards I just mentioned. This is a fairly decent backup plan, but we've got something better in store for them. You see, between all of their draw power, their constant special summoning, and their natural synergy with danger monsters, who also excel at that, we can play the deck as a sort of deep draw link spam deck. With all of this drawing and summoning, we end up getting to a Kyoto waterfront, searching a Gameciel, and then special summoning that with a Sayuja. That's right, Fur Hires work best as Gameciel control. Now if you didn't know, other than being a Kaiju, Gameciel also has a non-once per turn Omni Negate and Banish, all thanks to the field spell's counters, which also search Gameciel in the first place. Not only can Fur Hires manage that board with most of their hands, even through a hand trap or 2, but they can also add some extra stuff on the board like a Nightmare Griffin and a new card, Z Atlantis, to stop your opponent from beating over your board in the battle phase by destroying their cards. But enough explaining, it's time to start showing it to you, starting with the deck itself. Here it is. Now, because of how Fur Hires work, we do need to run a decent amount of them, but we also don't want to overload on them because we need the space for other stuff. So I went with 3 Rex, 3 Philo, 3 Beat and 3 Seal, then 2 Helmer, 1 Donpa, 1 Bravo, and 1 of each Wiz and Rafale. The 3 offs combo the best, so you want to find them as often as possible, while Helmer's okay and works quite well with the dangers, but doesn't necessarily further a combo. Donpa will be part of a combo that I'll show soon. Bravo is just another name, but also a target for using Rookie on beat, while finally the other 2 can be a negate of a spell or a monster with the right hands. The other Fur Hires are just too situational, so we don't bother with them, but you might want a Recon in your side deck just to help against back row decks. Then we just run all the good dangers, so 1 of each Tsushinoke and Jackalope, then 3 Bigfoot, Thunderbird and Nessie. Make sure to use Bigfoot and Thunderbird early on in your combos, since you don't want to be stuck with them at the end. In general, it's fine to get a Fur Hire in the graveyard, since that actually lets you combo Furzer with Philo and Seal, so use your dangers in priority to the Fur Hires. You can always get back whatever gets discarded thanks to the new link too anyway. After that, run 2 Gameciel. 1 is definitely possible, but it's a bit dangerous when this deck relies on it so much. For our spells, you want 1 of each of the Fur Hire quick plays. Rookie is usually the one we'll search since it furthers your combos better, but it's nice to have the other one in case you've already drawn Rookie and you have a Rex. Then you run 3 Fossil Digs as 3 more copies of Rex. When it comes to Kyoto Waterfront's counters being added, don't forget that spells being used and going to the graveyard do count towards it as well, so don't be afraid to use extra copies just to get cards into the graveyard. For that reason, you could also run an Upstart Goblin if you wanted. To finish it off, you run 3 Waterfront, as well as the Terraforming, so that you'll hopefully not be forced to use more than 1 Sayuja to find it. So now for the extra deck. I think 2 Dona and 1 Folgo is enough, since we might want a second Dona for the Destruction effect, but we don't really use Folgo too often. However, it's easy to cut one of these Nightmares if you want an extra Folgo. Then 2 Sayuja is usually also enough, since as you probably know, it's not a hard once per turn. Use it to draw deeper into the deck if you don't already have a Waterfront, and make sure to make it with at least 3 materials to get the special summon effect which you'll use on Gameciel. Then, since he doesn't really do much after that, just turn him into a Zealantis, hopefully getting some destruction effects during the battle phase. Combo that with a Griffin if you have the extra materials, and you'll have a pretty nice lock on the field. Alternatively, use your extra materials for an Underworld Goddess to Kaiju something, possibly even using a Masquerena to turn it into an interruption. Speaking of her, she can make something, even for example a weak Appaloosa, to immediately refill some of your Kaiju counters if your opponent is playing through them too well, since her and any of her other materials will be going to the graveyard. It's a nice way to sort of store counters for later, if you know you're playing against something that will be able to play through the first 2 negates from Gameciel pretty easily. Then the Nightmares are just easy removal and can also help with deep drawing when going second. Almirash is a great use of whatever you normal summon, since then with Dona, you've gained a monster's worth of materials if you tribute that instead. Finally, since you play a ton of level 8s, Hope Harbinger is a fairly safe inclusion. So that's the deck, and now it's time for the combos. I'll start off with a few combos focusing on Fur Hire monsters, without worrying about your random draws or Gameciel. It's obviously not as strong as getting Gameciel out, but it's a lot more reliable, so it's a good idea to remember that these options do exist as well. But before that, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deck profiles like this. Here we'll be using Vex together with any other Fur Hire. I use Bravo as an example since it basically doesn't do anything else. Summon Rex and search Rookie. Then tribute Rex to get out Beat. You can then summon the other Fur Hire. That will let you search Rafale, who triggers its effect. We now just hope to draw any Fur Hire off of the excavations. After that, you link into a Folgo, who summons Wiz from the deck, giving you a few extra life points. On your opponent's turn, you can now use Rex's graveyard effect to summon Rafale back from the graveyard, giving you another excavation. As long as you have the right discards, You'll now have Fulgo out, along with both a spell and a monster negate. That was just one example of what we can do as the new support while focusing on the Fur Hires. Here's a second combo that puts Rex to even better use. You'll be starting the exact same way as the last combo, getting out 3 Fur Hire monsters thanks to B and Rex's searches. After Hafael excavates and tries to hit a Fur Hire, we go into Fulgo, who this time grabs a Donpa. The excavation matters less this time, as you will soon see. On your opponent's turn, wait for them to have something worth destroying. When they do, use Rex's quick effect to bring back Hafael, which will trigger Donpa, and you even get to chain block that with Hafael's excavation. Now since you've also destroyed a card, Fulgo triggers to draw 3 cards, basically making sure you'll be able to discard for Hafael's effect, and also giving you a ton of resources for next turn. So those are some reliable combos, but what really matters is playing it out in a real hand. In this one we start with Waterfront, and since we don't want to discard it, we play it before using Nessie. That gets a seal in the graveyard, and so we summon the other one. That summons Helma, and adds the other seal back. Now Helma summons Rex, and discards the seal to draw. Rex also searches Rookie Fur Hire. We tribute Rex for beat, and link into Dona to trigger its effect, searching Hafael. While we're at it, Waterfront now also has enough counters to search Gamesiel, so we do that. Dona now tributes herself to get out Hafael and a Helma, and we chain Rex to the summon, so that the excavation is even deeper. We turn everything except Hafael into a Yugioh, who draws 4 and returns 3. Before using the dangers, we also make sure to get Gamesiel out. After that, we just extend as much as possible, getting out a Tsushinoke and then a Jackalope. We'll turn those into an IP Masquerena, and leave the Helma in our hand for our Hafael. Now, during your opponent's turn, we'll have a bunch of negates from Gamesiel, but if we run low on counters, we can use IP Masquerena to quick link into a Griffin thanks to the extra material from Rex's graveyard effect, refilling the counters and setting up Griffin's Floodgate thanks to it pointing to a Yugioh. Here's one more to show off Dona a bit better. We'll start by fossil digging for Rex, who we then summon with Fulgo's effect. It will search a Rookie, which will immediately tribute for beat. We'll get it right back thanks to Philo's effect, who also triggers Beat's search for Hafael. We summon him and excavate for Waterfront. We play it and then turn our normal summon into an Almirage, and the other 2 into a Dona. She tributes Almirage for the Wiz in our hand and a Philo, and then we finish using our spells, getting back a beat and searching Gamesiel. Those 4 materials go into a Yugioh, letting you get a Nessie and then summon Gamesiel. Thanks to the dangers, we can get 2 more monsters onto the field, allowing us to make a Nightmare Griffin. We can now link into a Zeolantis, giving us at least 2 destructions in the battle phase, as well as all of Gamesiel's negates and a co-linked Griffin for its Floodgate. And that's the deck! Will you try the Gamesiel version of this deck, or do you prefer to run them in a different way? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe. Special thanks to my tier 3 patron Distran. The link to that is in the description. Thanks for watching!